We live in this watery group of islands. Rivers run through British literature. They run through people and its books as surely as they run through its places. And we live in an island group. We're surrounded by seas, and those seas have beaten at our shores, but they've beaten at our imaginations as well.
Water is such a big subject that you have to limit yourself, I think, to write about it, because you could write about anything. And so for me, its changeability was what I really focused on.
I've become really very interested about poetry that is written about coastal environments, about that kind of a liminal landscape that is itself always changing, always eroding, and yet is facing up to what you could argue is the most ancient and most unchanged view that we've got, the basic view of the sea and the horizon.
There's one big difference between land and water, and that's that land keeps records and water doesn't. You can walk a land path. I've walked Neolithic tracks that were left 5,000 years ago, and the land, the earth has kept those in its archive. The sea, you can sail a boat on it, and 2 minutes later, the trace of your passage has vanished.
I've always been interested in paradox and ambiguity, and the fens embody this basic ambiguity. It's in the title of my novel, Waterland. It is a region where water and land meet and mingle and sometimes conflict with each other.
A particular thing that I always do with a place is I'll always sleep a night outside in that place, because then you feel as if you're not controlling the impressions you get. And by the morning, you have a very different understanding of where you are. Certainly with the Dart, I did a lot of swimming in it, and a lot of talking to people who knew the river in a more practical way than me.
Relatively recently, our perceptions of the sea have changed dramatically. Not that long ago, it was a dark and dangerous place and considered an unpleasant place and not somewhere that you would go. Now, that sort of liminal landscape has a completely different sort of connotations.
This particular river is untrustworthy. Sometimes it seems maternal and comforting and sympathetic to humans, and sometimes I've seen it in a storm, really quite terrifying.
One of the paradoxes of this region is it can look rather inert, but there's more to it than meets the eye, and there is this elemental struggle going on all the time here. Realism, fatalism, phlegm. To live in the fens is to receive strong doses of reality. The great flat monotony of reality, the wide empty space of reality. Melancholia and self-murder are not unknown in the fens. Heavy drinking, madness, sudden acts of violence are not uncommon. How do you surmount reality, children? How do you acquire, in a flat country, the tonic of elevated feelings? If you are an Atkinson, it's not so difficult. If you could look down from your Norfolk uplands and see in these level fens some idea, a drawing board for your plans, you can outwit reality.
I was also interested in the way the river changes all the time, particularly just here. It's tidal, and you get a different river every hour of the day. Sometimes it's mud, and sometimes it's overflowing. And I think that was the thing that I learnt through writing the poem, was to find a style of writing that was as quick-moving as water itself. Like a ship, the shape of flight, or like the weight that keeps it upright, or like a skyline crossed by breath, or like the planking bent beneath, or like a glint, or like a gust, or like the lofting of a mast. Such am I who flits and flows, and seeks and serves and swiftly goes. The ship sets sail, the weight is thrown, the skyline shifts, the planks groan, the glint glides, the gust shivers, the mast sways, and so does water.
Kenneth Grahame, who writes probably one of the best river books I know, which is The Wind in the Willows, he talks brilliantly in the first chapter about a river being, I think it's a babbling procession of stories taken from the heart of the earth and told to the insatiable sea. And that sense of a river as a songline and of the sea as a storybook is really, really strong.